Welcome to the Church Resource, where we talk about all the best resources for churches, leaders, and lay people. I'm here with Dr. Chris Respass.
What's up, baby?
What's going on, man?
I don't know nothing.
Representing
I'm
that.
repping today.
Okay, so does that say unk? Is that what that says?
Stop playing. Now listen, we almost had to edit some stuff out.
You're repping your North Carolina
repping
gear.
Carolina,
Any reason in particular?
No, it matched.
Yeah.
No,
All right.
No.
It's not because Flag was the first pick and you're like trying to remind everybody, hey, we here too.
We still here too, baby. We got somebody in finally. No.
Well,
what's up with you though, man? How you
not
been?
a whole lot. Doing good.
I'm looking good.
Well, I appreciate that. I got a little taller. New shoes.
All right,
They'll do that. Yeah.
Hey,
Thanks,
put
Go
me
Rock,
on.
for the new shoes. It's a 10-millimeter heel drop, and Kirsten was like, "What do you think that is? That going to help you?" And I was like, "I'll be able to look you right in the eyes.
Right
it's
in
going
the
to
eye,
help.
baby.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to make our arguments more intense. That's what it's going to do." Oh, they're super comfy, man.
Hey, that's good.
They're good. I was thinking about you whenever I got them. I was like, I need some little splash of a bright color on there just to
come
prove that
on.
I can do it.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah,
so will you guys, maybe.
That's it.
Today we're going to talk about the thing a lot of us have just finished up.
Yeah.
That it's a staple for so many churches. Vacation Bible School.
Oh yeah.
Dum dum
Come on,
dum.
dum dum. Where half the church gets saved.
Yeah, half the church gets saved. The other half is just volunteers in a corner, huddled up over a propane cook stove.
Hey, that's it.
Yeah,
that's it.
Man, so VBS, there's a lot in the past few years of people who are getting in or out of the VBS game for the first time in a while.
Yeah.
There was a movement kind of away from it. There's still some churches that are in process of doing that. I've talked with a few pastors who no longer do Vacation Bible School, and that's one of the reasons that they do it is they're like, look, man, we didn't really see a benefit in it.
Mm-hmm.
It was exhausting on our leadership. It also was just one of those things that I was never really excited about doing. And so it seems like that tends to be the deciding factor. If the pastor or the kids director, if they've got that much delegation to them or authority that the pastor's given them, if they decide to do it, then it's on. But if they don't want to, then it's off. I will tell you, it's my absolute favorite event we do during the summer.
Okay.
I love Vacation Bible School. But we talked a few episodes ago. I grew up preaching at camps and being a camp staffer and all that kind of stuff. And so this gives me the opportunity to bring that day camp vibe to the folks at the church. And so we go wild for VBS, man. We have a good time and bring the energy. But our churches have kind of partnered in VBS. I kind of want to talk a little bit about this. We all use the same VBS decorations. Right. For the most part, most of us are using the Lifeway VBS curriculum. It tends to be one of the more complete Coxbury, I think. There we go. Mm-hmm. They've got one that is also really good. We've used some of their stuff in the past. Lifeway for us tends to be one that is a little bit more complete. The resources are there just because of the reach that they have. But we have, I think there's 4 or 5 churches that are involved in our loop. First Baptist Denton does some decorations, and then Southmont Baptist Church gets from them and then adds some of their stuff. We get from Southmont, add some of our stuff. Antioch gets from us, and we don't know. I don't know. I was talking to Tay to figure out whether or not they're passing it off to somebody else, right? So first, I just wanted thank you guys for partnering with us on that, and also encourage this, particularly churches in our situation who are smaller churches. They are really passionate about VBS, and you're looking and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all these decorations and all of this stuff? Yeah. Man, go hit up some of the other churches. Go look on the calendar and say, hey, listen, we see that you got your VBS about a week or 2 before us. Right. Can we, maybe we can help you with decorations, or maybe we can help you with decorations by getting all that stuff off your hands so you ain't got to store it. And we've had several churches that have been a part of this in the past. It's a great way to partner with you guys. What keeps you doing Vacation Bible School? Yeah,
so, and before I get there, man, let me tell you how much I appreciate that. And just to reiterate what you said, the partnership with the decorations was, and a couple of things. One, the church has spent a lot of time, energy, money, and creative capital in these decorations. Like, we have really benefited through the sharing program, just because of the level of creativity, and the look. And so that's been a blessing. And then two, it helps to reinforce all the stuff that we're preaching about when we say it's the body of Christ. The body of Christ. And so we really 100%. Get to live that out. And so I appreciate you and other churches, that are that are part of done it. And indeed,
the creativity piece you talk about, it's so wild whenever we get some of this stuff. One of the things, this year's theme that we used was magnify. And so we got from one of the other churches all of these, they were black, like disposable plates, like paper plates, that had little pieces of pipe cleaner attached to them. And I was like, what the heck is that? Yeah. And then somebody had taken a picture and sent it to us of what they had on the wall. It was ants. As what they're using. I was like, my brain does not work that way. I literally looked at it. I was like, what? Well, I guess we picked up some trash whenever we were over there. And they're like, no, look at this. They're ants. And sure enough, man, you had the head and the legs and all that for the ants and the little googly eyes on them. And they were all tracks in. And that was one of the kids' favorite parts. My brain does not operate like that at all. I was like, well, I'm glad we also got some of their garbage. Glad we could help out in that. But no, it ended up being some really cool stuff.
Yeah. No. So I piggyback on what Lucas said. If that's you, look around your community and see who else is doing what you're doing, and see if you can partner. In terms of VBS for us. It's just kind of, I want to say culturally that probably is not fair, but there probably is some truth to it. The reason we kind of still do VBS is I think it's just part of our, not only church culture, but kind of like our expectation is that the summer is for VBS.
Yeah.
And so, it's in our blood. Most of us grew up in churches, that have Vacation Bible School. But it's also an opportunity for us to kind of have that break. We're probably a little different from some of the traditional offerings of Vacation Bible School. And, the most significant of which is that ours is typically in the evening.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so
same.
we don't, I know a lot of churches have it during the day. Ours is in the evening. Also, we try to do some things that would incorporate adults, right? So it's not just children. It's children oriented and focused, but not, solely so. And I think that has kind of allowed us to make it a church event, right, as opposed to just a youth, even though the youth ministry drives it. In partnership with the other ministries in the church, having that adult feature to it as well kind of allows us to broaden the scope. And so it's an exciting time. I know when I was a youth pastor, I used to use VBS as my opportunity to teach adults. Right, I taught kids all year. So
So you guys do VBS for adults? You
Yeah.
have an adult class in VBS.
Yeah,
All right, cool.
Yeah. And so while I've been at Antioch over the last couple decades, we've kind of gone back and forth. It started out absolutely adult and children, then it kind of morphed into primarily children, and then the adults started to complain because in the evenings, and we would serve food, a little bit something more substantial than the snacks,
right?
And what would happen is you had adults sitting around waiting on their kids to get finished, right? And we were like, well, that's kind of crazy. Let's capitalize on that.
Yeah.
And so we kind of rekindled the classes again. And so
that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we tried one year to do an adult VBS, and it was the same time as the kids. The culture in our community was a drop-off VBS,
right?
And so when we tried to do it, so many of our church members were volunteering. Those that weren't, it's not that they didn't have the desire to. It's probably because they weren't able-bodied or able to because of work scheduled.
Sure.
So there wasn't the church attendance that was there. And a lot of our kids, too, in our communities, they are, we had a couple of kids that knew the memory verse day one because this was like VBS 2 or 3,
exactly.
That they were going to throughout the year.
Right.
So, there just wasn't that interest of involvement. But we did this year have a couple grandparents who brought their kids to VBS that were all about hanging out and chatting it up. And so I wonder if next year maybe that's a thing for us to have available. And just check it out. Yeah.
So, the thing, you mentioned that some had kind of pivoted away from it because they weren't seeing the response. Well, oddly enough, our experience has been that new families are kind of interviewing the church through Vacation Bible School.
Oh, really?
Right. So we see what you just described as kids that have obviously gone around the block a couple times as it relates to VBS and been to different programs in the area. But we've had families to eventually connect with the church and become part of the congregation. Some even join, and their first exposure was through Vacation Bible School.
Yeah,
and many of them were kind of on the VBS circuit.
Right. I mean, that's what it is, right?
You know what I mean? And so we've seen some success there, and I think what has probably encouraged that is, you mentioned the kind of camp atmosphere where there's a lot of energy around VBS, and we're probably not as formal as we, usually.
Everybody's a little more loose.
Yeah, loose, laid back. It's kid focused.
Yeah.
We're kind of having a good time.
Wearing your tie.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm not trying to choke out. It's 1,000 degrees down here.
Man, it is. Yeah, we've had to make some pivots on the indoor-outdoor depending on weather index and all that stuff because of that. Yeah,
exactly, man. So it's been good for us, and I enjoy it. I really do. I enjoy it, and it's an opportunity. While we're trying to be creative and exciting for the young people, it also allows us to take some risks from the creative perspective in some of the things that we do, even in our case with the adults.
Yeah,
I remember one year we were actually had our students kind of write a rap or something.
Are you serious?
I was working through the text, right?
That's cool.
And I was like, okay, so I need y'all to go. Man, this lady wrote this rap. I was like, okay, we need to. I was like, okay, sister, do your thing. I bounced like,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, man. So it's cool. I look forward to it.
It is one of those really important things for us because we do get the different kind of engagement in our community.
Yeah.
It's often one of those things that it galvanizes that volunteer base, right?
Oh,
if you've done VBS really well, if the week has been organized well and runs fairly smoothly, then your volunteers, you get a lot of relationships that are built there from the ladies that are sitting around talking about snack or the guys that are hanging out as part of the parking lot team or whatever that are doing those kinds of things. So it's a great opportunity for relationship building there internally. And then, you mentioned talking to the parents that have done the circuit, and that's the thing I think we should wrap on is how important it is to follow up with those VBS families. And our director this last year has done a great job of making sure that we know which kids don't have church homes.
Right.
And talking to the parents about that, using that time whenever they're coming through in the pickup line and maybe we do an episode where we kind of get on the minutia of what things we do for VBS that have been really effective and where some of the things we've fallen flat on our face with.
Right.
But this in particular has been really, really great because it allowed a little bit of opportunity for relationship building there with the parking lot crew. We sent some things home, did some evals with, the kids, and the kids are saying, do you have a church home, and interacting with the parents. And so now we know, there's some families that have a church home. We've invited them. If they come, they come.
Right.
But the families that don't have a church home, particularly we had one young lady who got saved this week. Family doesn't go to church. And it's an opportunity for us to go and to, love on that family a little bit.
Right.
And I don't know that we have paid enough attention, or that, in growing up, that I've seen a really diligent follow up with VBS.
Right.
We get there, we reach the kids, we feel like we did our job, kind of slap five, it's over and on to the next thing.
Right.
The importance of that follow up team, not just because it engages other volunteers, which is a massive benefit in and of itself for those people who maybe they are homebound, or maybe, they do have difficulty getting around and their work schedules are crazy. Well, you can send a note, you can send an email, you can do something throughout the day that allows them to continue to be a part of the ministry of VBS if it's something that they love, but also engage in those families. And what things have y'all found that have been effective for follow-up?
To me, it starts with the registration process, right? And I think and sensitizing our people to the importance of having the information, but it's not just so you can make sure you got enough materials,
right?
And it's not to just to make sure that we don't inadvertently create an issue with a food allergy or just security, right? But that this is, part of the mission. And so really trying to make sure that we have everyone accounted for with the registration, because then, to your point, it can be utilized as a contact point, right? So part of your registration is got a church home or where you go to church or, something like that can kind of help sift that out, rather in addition to capitalizing on the conversation, just, in the pickup line or as they're kind of meandering in the hallway, just kind of talking and filling it out. Because I'm guilty of running my mouth and talking to people, but post-conversation, I have no idea what Lisa I was talking to.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying,
right?
What Taylor I was chatting with, and so having all that stuff, lined out in the registration process, kind of helps connect some of those dots and kind of touch base, because the majority of the participants are kids, right? It's then encouraging our youth team, to in fact follow up.
Yeah.
And the odd thing for us has been those kids who don't have a church home. Oftentimes they're coming with their friends.
Yeah.
And so that's where the unique challenge for us has been, really, you may even say a hurdle, is because they came with their buddies. Right. And we don't, from the legal standpoint, we don't really have access to their contact information because we know them through Johnny.
Right.
Yeah,
you got all Johnny's parents' info and all that stuff, right?
But
Edrin's still just out there doing his own thing.
Running around playing.
He's just wilding out.
That's right. And we can't call, can't call somebody. And but to then try to leverage whatever relationships we do have,
right?
So that follow up is kind of has an added step. But for us, it's just really being not to be so as you've described, so focused on getting through the week and getting through all the stuff.
Man, it's hard Thursday and Friday not to be just focused on.
That's it. Listen, eat these hamburgers and go home.
Yeah, right.
But to really see it as a labor of love that ideally will result in somebody saying yes to Jesus.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got suggestions for follow-up or maybe some ways that you guys have done VBS that have been successful, make sure you drop them down in a comment so we can start the conversation there. We want this community to be one that builds one another up. If you have some curriculum, maybe you got some books that you want us to take a look at. We got some book. I don't know if you call them reviews.
Yeah.
We got some assessments. Of some books coming up. But if you got any resources that you want us to check out or a topic that you want us to cover, you can email us at thechurchresource@gmail.com. That's thechurchresource@gmail.com. And until next week, y'all have good, get give, and we'll see you.
Holla.